As I said, I watch a lot of CNN, MSNBC, so you guys don't have to. Nobody was saying, oh, watch out tomorrow on January 6th. A whole bunch of yahoos are going to show up, and they're going to torch the place, so I sure hope the Capitol Police and Metro Police are ready. Nobody said that. Why? Because the other rallies Donald Trump had never had this kind of violence. Lisa Murkowski also, one would expect, Alaska. Now remember, after the January 6th riot, she called on President Trump to resign. So not too surprisingly, she convicted him, voted to convict him. Ben Sasse, Nebraska. He blamed Trump for, quote, spreading false conspiracy theories about voter fraud in the preceding months. It's a false conspiracy theory? Remember, his team did not join with Sidney Powell, who's arguing that the voting machines were manipulated. Giuliani said that was not part of their case at all. Pat Toomey, Pennsylvania, retiring when his term ends in 2 years. He called it, quote, a lawless attempt to retain power by a president who was one of the founders' greatest fears, motivating the inclusion of the impeachment authorities in the U.S. Constitution, end of quote. Really? Richard Burr, Republican, North Carolina, again, not running for re-election, said the evidence was, quote, compelling. Said, quote, President Trump violated his oath of office to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, end of quote. And Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana, even though last month he voted that the whole thing was unconstitutional, shouldn't have a trial in the first place, and then he changed his mind and then voted to convict. So those are the 7. 888-971-SAGE. Andrew is in Stanhope, New Jersey. Andrew, always nice to hear from you.
Hey, how's it going? Skip Gates, the infamous one who, not hoax, but he played up when he was arrested, breaking into his own house.
Right.
And to play the victim, but he encouraged it and ran his mouth off so he could then bloviate. He knew he was safe. He was the aggressor. He wanted the microphone. He went to the campus the next day and, had the crowds. I had video shoots with him twice. When I worked at the Newark Museum, I talked to him before the event, and I said, if you're trying to help the black community, why don't you talk about the out-of-wedlock birth rate? And he said, you're right. And I wrote an article in the New York Times. He said, Google it. So I just said, well, most of the people that are young that live in housing projects, they're not going to read the Times op-ed page. And even if they did read it, it's set up by the politicians so the people get benefits for being single moms. So it doesn't matter.
Andrew, excuse me, how many years ago was this?
This was a long time, probably 12 years, 15. And then another quick...
Hold on a second, Andrew. And you literally went up to him and said, why don't you talk more about the absent fathers? And he was receptive, and he said, you're right, I should?
Yeah, he not only that I'm right, but he said he wrote an article in the op-ed page of the New York Times.
Well, Andrew, that is really, really quite impressive, and good on you for suggesting that. I think I've told you in all my years being on air, I've tried to get Maxine Waters on. I've tried to get Jesse Jackson on. I've tried to get Sharpton on. I tried to get Farrakhan on to talk about this. And I was able to get one so-called black leader on. And I got one so-called black leader to come on, Kwesi Mfume, who, by the way, is now back in Congress. At the time, he was the president of the NAACP, had come out of Congress. Now he's back in Congress. And I said to him, Mr. Mfume, as between the presence of white racism or the absence of black fathers, which poses the bigger threat to the black community? And the man did not miss a beat, and he said the absence of black fathers. So what the hell are we talking about here? We come back. Guess who's been canceled? Dianne Feinstein. Tell you about that in just a second.